Okay, welcome in everybody. Howdy, this is Ian Eric Wojciechowicz, and you're watching the first Exhibit B show of 2024. You'll notice that, unlike usual, I'm alone tonight. My co-host Jim couldn't be with me, but you'll see I have a photo of him contained within a frame that is a permanent feature in my house. And while it may look like just a frame hanging on my wall, it's actually better described as a sort of human pokeball. Perhaps a larger soul gem for those Elder Scrolls fans we got out there, and he's going to give me moral support throughout the night, so we thank him for that. Like I said, our first show of the year. Thank you so much for being with us. We've got a wonderful show for you coming up, and a wonderful year after that. So let's get into it. First, got a couple things I want to say before we get into the readings. First of which is a thank you to our partners in this venture, the Guild Literary Complex. Been with us since the beginning, and without their help, couldn't put these shows on. So, since 1989, the Guild Literary Complex has served the Chicago community through innovative programming. They view literature as a vehicle of connectivity and aim to merge seemingly disparate groups across Chicago's 50 wards. We'll be putting some links to the Guild in our chat tonight, so please check them out, see what they're doing. And second, before we get started, I want to do a little land acknowledgement statement. I would like to acknowledge the fact that we are on stolen land, the results of acts of genocide perpetrated by white settlers and the United States of America against this land's indigenous inhabitants. I recognize the complexity of myself, a non-native person, in doing so, but I do it with an open heart and as an act of solidarity. Chicago is the traditional homeland of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes like the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, Fox, and others called this area home. Today, Chicago is home to the sixth largest urban American Indian community that still practices their heritage, traditions, and care for the land and waterways. Chicago continues to be a place that calls many people from diverse backgrounds to live and gather here. All right, let's get into the show. We're going to have 4 readers for you tonight, the first of which is Jasmine Plaskon. Jasmine is a black multidisciplinary artist who does almost all her own stunts, almost. She's an avid creator with her hands, jewelry, occult readings, writing, art, and more. She received her MFA from Spalding University and can be found in some of the following places: Fourth River Review, the Santa Fe Literary Review, Peach Velvet Mag, Sundress Publications, and Winter Tangerine. Jasmine's first book, I Am the Final Girl, is in a furious state of being made. We've all been there. All right, thank you, Jasmine. Take it away.
And then there was a war in heaven, deep from the purview of the mountain. I heard Michael's voice boom over me and say,
"Rejoice. The day of your salvation is here, you creatures, for I bring the power and the kingdom of our God, blessed by authority of his Messiah. All of you who fall prey to my beloved's words, now I shall hurl you down and triumph over you all. And oh, pity, you fools could have loved your life so much, yet all you do is chase your own destruction. Therefore, rejoice, you in heaven, who I dwell with I, who doeth I. But woe to the earth and to the sea, because God has sent my beloved down. And now I am filled with fury, and I swear upon you now that your time draws to an end."
"Oh, hello there. Didn't expect you so soon. I thought you were gonna last a little while up there. No matter. You know me, you love me, hopefully. I'm Lucifer, Your favorite angel who fell from heaven all that time ago, blah blah. You already know the story, at least you should by now. I've been telling it a lot, especially lately again, because I just can't shut up. But today, well, this version of Lucifer, this is not that. You see, I've been trying to tell a different story for several months now. I started perhaps a little too deep in, and I thought the best way to reintroduce what it was I wanted to say from the start was to go back to the beginning, you see. And in this story that I'm going to tell you with this version of my body, well, this is not so. I am not here to talk about me, or at least not directly. I'm here to tell its story on behalf of somebody who wrote it for a long time coming. You might have heard of him. The great archangel formerly known as Michael. Oh yes, you pray to him for your protection, for strength, for courage. You pray to him for many, many things, for he is God's beloved heavenly host. Or is he? Well, we haven't exactly heard from the heavenly host himself how exactly he feels about all this. So I figure now is such a time to read you a story that he wrote called Still Alive After Paradise, the Epic of Michael. And we start from what I call a beginning, one of many, how we first met. The breath was the body the breath. In and out, I, Lucifer, who I call as well Hello, close my eyes. Besides the splendor of this place I called most sacred, Father told me that I was to practice being this first son's call. For once all the angels had been summoned, they would need to know when to arise and when their day would begin. And regardless of how often my father may irk me, I did not protest. No, I would practice this with much joy, for I wanted what Father wanted. Victory. Paradise is to be ours forever, you see, and to secure that there is only one way to do so. By blood. So I breathe in. From the center of my halo I channel light, a twinkle of illumination that blooms into full splendor. The first sun would come up otherwise, with or without me, but it seemed to respond just a little faster if I did it. Out. It appears like a glare on a mirror, or so Michael would tell me later. And he was already heading towards me, just wanting to see the first sun rise for the first time since he had been resurrected again. But as I breathe in again, oh my God, he says. And what was this if not God, or the closest thing to him, this light? The first sun as it bursts onto the scene now, spilling all that color like blood into the sky. And the light, a second light. Whatever cracked over the cosmos first breath of the day, it was most divine, for it illuminated all of paradise in raw light like a flashbang. I breathe out again. It's funny, it's really funny. Mikhail will tell me one day that the light reminded him of when I first smiled, yet as the first sun keeps rising higher and higher, he is not sure which light is the real one. Is it the one that is in the clouds above, or the one below that I summon upon the mountain peak? Mikhail tells me he chose below, diving leg first with talons out. What angel wouldn't have talons? You guys think of us as birds. Well, whatever was making so much fuss down there on the mountain peak, he figures it was the most interesting thing to investigate. And as I had finished my routine, I dimmed my light so I could come back to my body. I felt more settled, smiling, keeping my eyes closed for a moment as I basked in the sweetness, smelling the rain from below and fire. 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 I opened my eyes. In the future, once you mortals come to exist down upon Earth, you often describe us angels like this. Time captured in a bubble. If a feather were to fly off our wing, it would appear like it was frozen in the air. And you, aware of your breath so painfully it almost hurts to be alive. But it's not painful to not breathe. For me, it's just, it burns. It burns and it burns like the heat in my body when I awoke earlier this morning from my dream, and the heat that spewed from the chalice just before this being had told me goodbye. And I am so painfully unaware of my breath that I can't even speak or breathe or move, at least not in this moment. I tell to you, mortals, all I could do was look, and I'll tell you why. He appeared to me, Mikael, with wings on fire like a phoenix, like a dragon, hair that flowed like magma, long and wild, curly and free, a tower of an angel, one of the tallest. For every line, curve, and dip would proudly sculpt his muscle. He was not sure if my father, or at least I was not sure if my father had adorned him as such, or if he just came out like that, with a dark gold hip belt glittering in the same cord of jewels that I had worn. And for him, it was on the top of a blood-red robe. I was told by father this was a daemon, something of a fallen angel, meant to disguise himself as our heavenly host. And he would be the first prince of court, not born of man, but nature itself. Well, all I could do was keep gawking, perhaps uselessly, transfixed that I could not register anything else. But I had felt pleasure, for he had gawked at me quite the same, just as useless, unable to close his mouth.
All right, thank you so much to Jasmine again for being part of our first show of 2024, kicking us off with an awesome video. Next up tonight is going to be E. Hughes. E. Hughes is the author of the poetry collection Ankle Deep in Pacific Water, forthcoming from Haymarket Books this year. They received their MFA in Poetry and MA in English Literature from the Litowitz Creative Writing Program at Northwestern University. Their poems have been published in Guernica Magazine, Poet Lore, Indiana Review, Gulf Coast Magazine, and the Rumpus, among many others. Currently, Hughes is a PhD student in philosophy at Emory University. Take it away.
Hey, I'm E. Hughes, and I am super excited to read for Exhibit B. Thank you to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share some of my work. So, I am not a performer, and this sort of platform is a little bit new to me, so I hope it feels organic. So I'm gonna read some poems that I usually don't read at readings, but sort of more of my experimental or weird work. But again, I hope it feels organic and like I'm experimenting, and I hope you enjoy. So these poems are from my new work, which really explores the complexity of love, sex, desire, gender identity, just what it means to love, not just a romantic other, but to, love, to be loved, to be seen, whether that's by a parent, friend, even yourself. Who, you are always, your ultimate other, and what does it mean to sort of see yourself. So I'm going to read some of my work that's a little bit different, and maybe some work that I'm lesser known for. So the first poem is an erasure of a section of Michel Foucault's History of Sexuality, Volume 1. If you don't know, I'm getting a PhD in philosophy, so that sort of theory of a theory of being is always on my mind, especially as a Black person. So, but this is sort of thinking about how the queer, or in this case, Michel Foucault's language, how the homosexual becomes a species in Western thought after the 18th century. So, yeah, this is called Thicket. The whole thicket labeled as if to disentangle reality, it appears in power exerted in this diction and that simple prohibition, this new peripheral of perversions as defined category of forbidden acts, nothing more than the subject, a past, a childhood in addition to life, form, nothing, unaffected. It was everywhere, at the root and body. It was a secret, the always that always gave. We must forget that category that it was. It appears as one transposed from blackness, the interior, temporary aberration as the right now. This next poem I want to read is titled Ekphrasis of Black Women Fucking Each Other. I will not call her mother, though she's heard the first moan, though her name is the most primal thing I will say besides Jesus, besides mercy. I am learning the land of her, tasting the salt and citrus of her privacy. I do not need to know her with my eyes. The darkness we have entered is the only place I have ever felt undead. There is no moon or stars, no light guiding us through the subtle night toward life outside of this injured running. Do I call this care, taking her into my mouth? I will walk into the captivity of her body for shelter, a room where one woman enters the other's wound, holding her there until for once, a stanza of desire. This next poem is titled Bulldaggering. I know what I am, my mother's shame, her grandest fear. When I love another, I put the dick I bought between my legs and let a woman call me daddy until wet sex drives us into confusion, into oblivion. Once I wanted to be recognizable. Once I wanted to be a human, but I have learned this dick is the only real object. I have learned not to hate this vision of myself, pouring out like blue mesophases onto a screen. I have let go of these dreams that were never mine, but an ideal, a symbolic order of belonging. I call my failure a corpse, a corpsing. I am corpse until I learn death has never been an exit. This next poem is titled Bull Daggers Between Starshine and Clay. I want to fashion my black mouth to speak this journey of our bodies into utterance. What does one call this road between us? Once a man called this road love. Today I call this path a sequence of music, the burgeoning of speech, the poems we leave in a puddle at the center of our bed, the place where we touch each other until all we are is sound and heat. This must be why God called that moment of separation the beginning, the pain of being torn into something new. You rip me where it's funny and hurts the most. Somewhere between my legs is the most shameful part of my memory, the black portal of my need. My God, Who is this sweet child you have summoned from me? Let's see. I'm going to read a poem I haven't ever read. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is called Kyrie in Latin. That means Lord have mercy. What is it about loving you that makes me need to say mercy? Lord, help me from sinking down. You walk your fingers across the terrain of my body. You are a God searching for me in a black garden. I do not want you to see this shame, the ripe scar beneath my areola like a cut pomegranate, or the way I harden and shudder at the grace of your touch. How many times will you make me scream as a way to mean I love you more than this fertile ground? Do you hear me as your fingers tease me all the way open? I love you. The beg of someone's unlovable child, my pitiful plea, a debased scream. Baby, baby, please. And this is my last poem. This is the last poem in the book too, and I love this poem. And I don't ever say that about my own poems, but this is one poem I'm very proud of. And out of all the many poems I've written over how many years I've been publishing and just writing, this is one I'm really, I really love. And it was published in Gulf Coast Journal last year. So if you want to get a copy, check out Gulf Coast. All of it just means child. Love. It is your black legs opening. It is my black mouth ready to receive that teaches me love has no language. It wants nothing to do with speech. It is light refusing the articulation of mourning. It is us holding each other in its display, wrapped in a mess of loss. Our legs wrapped tight in the other, knowing what more we could not stand to lose. It is the way my heart dies when I look at you and the strength I do not have. It is all I have given others. It is all others have refused to give me. It is my mother's hatred. It is the broad-winged hawk landing in a tree. It is what that bird refuses to mean. It can't be God. It refuses an origin. It refuses a landing. Love. It is the first time we held hands. It is the smell of perfume on your neck, the sweater you warm to keep warm. It is the first time we made love in silence. It is the first sign of fear. The time we refuse to speak. It is Nina Simone singing just in time. There is no time. It is the way you spun me in evening light and we cried. It is all that we cannot carry. It is our attempts to hold each other in the loss and failure of meaning. It is all we have labored in our hearts. It is my black tongue and your black opening. Thank you so much. Thank you to Exhibit B again. Thank you for watching, and so glad to be featured among the other readers and performers tonight.
All right, thank you again to E. Hughes for being part of the show tonight. Wonderful work. Please check out some of the links that we put in below. You can see more of their stuff. And next up tonight, we have Annie Grizzle. Annie is a poet interested in the visual and sonic capabilities of language. Her chapbook, I Wake with Eyes, The Sound of Nectarines, was published in 2023 by Ursus Americanus Press, and she lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Take it away.
Sipped and readjusted, hair tucked by a hand assuring lilt like a language song, I speech. If you listen to the interlude of archways begging ascension, I say space as a third sense may be what you're arching for, I say. Where the body worms in stillness, grass flows through the psyche as small vibrations from the unexisted up. A map of spiraling chimera is defined as an illusion or fabrication of the mind, or air pinned out to dry. soft pillars of dander and fur. What is real is that if anything is real, it is that the mind will make connections, and if anything is real, it is water dreams, and if anything is real, it is that greasy iridescence of being, time today, refusal of reality, the human tendency to turn complexity into duality. Feedback is an output signal, harmonic properties of spit, the space between mirrors to let the world in. What is real is real, once again, familiar. Salt is real, is filling, except I do, is real, is drip, is real, is emerge from Kim. What is real is what is real is this is real. What real is real this is real is real is what real this I know is what real is this I know what real this what real this. What can I say about a laundromat that hasn't already been said? I swore I'd never again live somewhere without a washer dryer, and Kim said, "Don't be stupid." A lilting whisper. The sign on the laundromat wall said Annie, look down, but when I went to slip in the inaudible puddle, a loose grasp clung to something. Arthur Russell started playing. The laundromat is at the top of an icy bluff. I climbed there by the teeth of my Midwestern work ethic. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be raised Midwestern and almost inherently unwilling or unable to reach a version of success that seems generally upheld by people living and raised on either coast. And when I say unable, I mean not as in failure to achieve, but as in the rushing of parallel lines. Two equally powerful visions, two trains of seemingly incompatible model, chugging blinder to blinder through the same wind, identical to any onlooker, unrecognizable to each other. So it creates a sort of constant feeling of misconnection, and that growing up in Wisconsin, you're fed this idea that in order to be a serious artist, you need to move to California or New York, and so you do, but it's not real, but you can't articulate or even identify that yet because you're only 21. And when I say not real, what I mean is not real to me, because I think in certain ways we're coming from and moving forward fundamentally different realities. I think what I'm saying is my reality lies within how many times I can walk along the river before the path freezes over, how sound moves through the body of the lake. But I'm romanticizing again. My reality, densely and truthfully, lies at the uncomfortable fulcrum of acceptance, staring into the stability of a mundane and purposeful choice and clicking yes, something I've rarely done. To create, confront the trail of a touchable life. Today, Monday, January 30th, 2023, I opened to give my regards to 8th Street by Morton Feldman at random, and this was the result. Reading letters of Keats or Byron, you discover they were often quite discontented with poetry. Pushkin has a marvelous long poem where, after several halting lines, he breaks off to say, "Hey, what's wrong with my muse? She's limping." Like the tailor, the composer everywhere is always busy with a yardstick. He doesn't have the problem of truth. What I mean is, he doesn't work with the impossibility of ever reaching it, like the painter or poet. I also opened The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson at random, and this was the result. Many years ago, Ann Carson gave a lecture at Teachers and Writers in New York City, at which she introduced to me the concept of leaving a space empty so that God could rush in. I knew a bit about this concept from my boyfriend at the time, who was big into bonsai. In bonsai, you often plant the tree off-center in the pot to make space for the divine, but that night Carson made the concept literary. Act so that there is no use in a center. A piece of Steinian wisdom, Carson says she tries to impart to her students. At some point I realized I no longer had my original copy of Autobiography of Red by Ann Carson, dirty and dog-eared, filled with underlines and exclamation points and my earnest 18-year-old reflections. I remember looking through it when I was 22 or 23 and feeling the embarrassment of all these genuinities, going so far as to black some of them out with a ballpoint pen while sitting in a Starbucks. I think it was shortly after that I lent it to an acquaintance, or maybe it was with the knowledge that I would be passing it along that I covered my tracks. Amorphous shames. Years later, when I was 25 or 26, KP and I were in Ben's apartment. I don't remember why we were there, and I saw sitting on his dresser a pristine copy of Autobiography of Red. I opened it somehow expecting to see my lines and excitements and blackouts, only to be shocked by its clean, empty for a different God to rush in. Nestled in the morning of Monday, January 30th, nearly a year ago, I felt Morton and Maggie to have occurred together as a meaningless proof of coincidence. Coincidence only sensical to me in that moment, and only coincidence in the way Joan has already described somewhere in the White Album. The mind will make connections. Morton will talk about poets. Maggie will talk about Anne, who will talk about Gertrude. At 25, I will take a rock from Gertrude's Atelier. At 19, I will write a bad copy of Carson's Giron. At 29, I will continuously listen to recordings of Didion, and today, Wednesday, January 17th, 2024, in the jingle-jangle morning of my present, I will realize I've been living as if I have no center. My memories feel as unreal as my futures, which is only to say I'm lost in the softness of time. I'm sitting behind a frosted window at night, a tornado siren as light, parsing through the mealy mundanities of living while the construct of it, what would perhaps have once been called abstract but is fully real, unavoidable, present, bears down its contrived weight. I'm learning to sit in the Midwestern truth that sometimes it is winter, that the coldest sky is blue and it's spreading like sun. Melody without dependence of a spine, the way light drips from a window and onto the snow at night is how I feel about time. With the head of a poem, the body of an essay, and the tail of a lake, I'm sitting behind a frosted window at night, a tornado siren as light. This is where the film begins.
All right, thank you again to Annie Grizzle for being part of the show this evening. As always, check out the links dropped in the chat for Annie's work. And finally this evening, we have a reading from Michael Chang. Michael is the author of many collections of poetry, including Synthetic Jungle, published by Northwestern University Press last year, 2023, and Employees Must Wash Hands from GreenTower Press this year, 2024. They also edit poetry at Fence. Michael, take it away.
Okay, this one's called Scenic Route First Avenue. This is a poem where the poet scribbles furiously, hoping to finish goodbye notes to his beloveds, and when he's done, the angel waiting for him says, "It doesn't matter, they're long dead." How sad for the poet to be met with constant hostility, God being a top who likes Michigan football, Canadian bacon, despises poetry. This one's called LA River. With a grimace, the artist told me the judge sided with Katy Perry to evict a disabled vet from his home, a run-of-the-mill dispute, but we love to be sensational, just as butterflies may be plastic but have the most common sense and no arithmetic. Her tutor had been a eunuch, her practice based on the duck-rabbit image, as well as my wife and my mother-in-law, the illusion that depicts an old woman looking to the left or a young woman glancing over her right shoulder, the old woman's nose being the young woman's chin, spouting fucked up fairy tales from Austria or Germany. My grandmother was very German in a good way. Okay, don't aggravate my asthma or wanderlust. She moved on from erotics because that is passé, the Spanish word Nevada meaning snow-capped, like the state I was in, thinking the flash flood warning was alerting me to hard bodies and harder booze. How does it feel to be so ideal? He does not need to be coaxed. I do not like his white appliances. Um, this one's called Sleepwalking. Sometimes I look at the mole people traversing the tunnels, wonder what goes on in their heads. Mostly they seem to think about cootie catchers, recall where they were the first time they heard Poker Face. They aren't as smart as you, Eric. No one can comprehend your innermost thoughts. Even your thoughts have thoughts. St. Mark's renamed, 6 train on time. Bankruptcy declares itself for you. The mules at Tompkins Square set aside their differences. The cannibals retire their bad habits, build shrines in your service, celebrating you like Easter. Shakespeare confesses the true authorship of those works, declares you the rightful bard, an ember of opium pumped directly into our veins. You're meant to be hallucinated, soft seeming but hard hitting. Superman is afraid of you. Your vision cuts glass. You're never too high to come. Lucky me, a charity case, an excellent poet. This one's called Love in the Dark. Get lost, drop the semantics and saber rattling. I dreamed the dream, am restored to my true form, a modest trust fund where beauty dwells, pledge offering you their first fuck, surprised to feel your throb, your pulse, deep dick, dog, and bitch together, the yin yang of it all, popping off like whales' barnacles. Watercolor or Hermes tie, the Greek ape whispered and sighed. The housewife punished her baby by staring. Forgoing the wild wings, the valet met every request with a solemn certainty. It was Arclight or the tale of Genji. Chocolates melting in pockets, packs of stewardesses walking by giggling. Wise guy, my cupbearer, much too late for frosted tips. Prince Charming sliding foot into slipper. It was that or deportation. Ogre trolling toilets resumed teaching position. Not long before you glanced peevishly, a Shire wrestler. He was deeply unstable, more polite to say volatile. The heart has found what it requires at any cost. More apple strudel. Here to adjust a nurse's hat. Try this exercise below the belt. Oliver Twist, smothered in neglect, lollygagging shade more seductive. City, O city, we endeavor to spare you further embarrassment. Agog on the metro, comrade, it must be done. We'll play solitaire, maybe some minesweeper. No, please, dipshit is my father, pale and innocent, the way I like them. Did I stammer? The glory days of Taiwanese cinema are over. Aren't we just ready for another scorcher? Delicious diphthong. Tell me something. Should I kneel to take your measure? I'll be your carpet, your pincushion to attract attention, a whistle and a light. Seasons come and go, valet making off with Ferrari, drained red turning to white, jocks leer, woozy off bath salts. There's no mistaking their contempt, or is it desire? Trolley car careening, terrifying box office collapse. The Chinese aren't buying what you're selling. Let's face it, there's only so much fast and furious one can take. Untrained eye, need for growth. There's nothing I wouldn't give to meet those eyes again. This one's called Days of 2023. On the first of the year, I cried because the bunny did not come home. My blade for candied apples was rusty. God's own country demanded, show me Miami. Speaking of the future, how will it feel months from now? Residual tremors from the quake, seeing double, overwhelming evidence of sexual activity. I'm a pelican in your spill, my beak full of poems heaven sent. Existing was relatively painless. The alligators showed me mercy. Without provocation, no turning back, admiring Miro to old-timey tracks. The spiritualists had an unhealthy attachment to sepia. There's something for everyone. I refused to be foiled by sliding doors, skimmed the diversity statement so as to order in and out. Who gives a shit? We're all going to the same place, in and out. When someone you hate asks for a tarot reading, tell them this here says you're a bitch. Unsheathing Shiv. Much love to you and yours. Vincent Chin has not been beaten by racists in Michigan. Your skin reminds me of what I'm not, an oncologist, a verb, faded Polaroid of Mothman, harmful to the public health, in many ways a lunatic. Karzai comfortably ensconced in Falls Church Mansion, the janitorial staff at his golf course forced to sign NDAs they couldn't read. Part of the restaurant ceiling fell in. Those flapjacks fixed my sadness. Close-up bulges on billboards yielded pretty penises full of repetitions. Are you packing or are you just a big dick? Well, I may or may not have turned you into the wrap on a bus. Elegant boy, blinking one on and off, promising to make my day. Saliva carrying no resentments. You might know Coco's camellia, but do you know the lion's mouth of a fallen city? That knife in the night, quiet mode, more like disquiet mode, am I right? It's past your bedtime. Shall we sign in or subscribe? Every woman and tender man, the Dalai Lama's dark mark burning, nothing in the acid bath, believe me. I looked for you, the shiniest toy in the shop. I may have leaned in to touch it. Maybe two more. This is called Liturgy. Family week at the ranch, date night with the ghost of you, a gathering of demon dolls washing saintly feet as Jesus asked of his disciples, obedient footmen meeting the hounds, site-specific owls and flesh, coffee tin concealing evening train, commercial value of reclining nude. We think so little of you, poetry born out of need. Maybe love means control any time of day. The inmates at the asylum singing along. Thank you for your hospitality. Please respect us. Our bodies are different from yours. What we're looking for is musicality, misplaced Chanel handbag, milk tea with gold hardware. Look at us always managing to find 2 pennies to rub together for the things that matter. Burlesque at Crazy Horse, French dip at Caesar's Palace, peach tea and fizzy water, jewelry snatched from neck of ingenue, small movements like a sparrow's, boy diver with Mikimoto pearls, expecting to be held. Walking the dunes, we understood each other. I'd never seen such a tiny Olympian. Shall I say I saw God? He strengthened me. There was admittedly something about his briny face when I called him a callous lover. Of course, I meant careless. The student show being exactly what it sounds like. Clueless proctor in Palm Angel's jacket, nodding unconvincingly, having given up how the radiation must have afflicted you. Don't tempt me with your bare legs. Leslie launching himself from 24th floor of Mandarin Oriental, the most capable swimmers being the ones who drown. 240 Center Street, formerly the police building. now a luxury co-op, quick, merciful bullets blowing through plaster, best man at your funeral telling necessary lies, every year buying you pajamas for Christmas, ill-fated remake of Old Boy, promising dust of old magic. She cries into her rice pudding, snail leaving trail of drool, finger me like you do that wine glass. My only other aspiration, a disavowed spy, sweater with brushstrokes, new Brooks Brothers. This narrative, something's gotta give. This fire, it really brought the house down. You were at fault. And lastly, this one's called Joyride. The 150-year mystery of why urine is yellow has finally been cracked. The Photoshop poem made me lose it. Inkjet print on canvas. Did you blink when he bore down on your bunghole? We are post-clit. Lost sock in dryer, tumbly and staticky. Birthday girl, everything bagel kind of bitch. Good girl gone bad. We make your eyes roll back into your head. Ha 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 ha. My abductor, tall white male. Complaint alleged, stray delusions, workers threatening to hog-tie management, like Kim Jong-un, who has never been hog-tied. When Jimmy talked about Korean moms, I thought he meant Ajuma. That little freak in UCLA sweatshirt. Your late wife wasn't beautiful, but she could really get a move on, ship bound for Contra Costa County. You look like you would be touched by buzzing phone, hot-wired car. Peaches after a storm, journal entries about fortune, spending entire days with Albert Goldbarth. We're provincial scholars, making our way to the capital, that big exam. We live between the lines, fairy. Showcase your infidelity. The lamb is my friend. We're camera shy, our outfits appear racist. We're cold-blooded. What are you gonna do, fuck each other? Funny how what doesn't kill you comes back to bite you in the ass. Bright screens, no translation. Groan of my fancy mattress. We wish you success in finding the right home for your wife's poetry collection. I've never seen worse. Tell me how those steam pipes work again.
Okay, thank you again to Michael Chang for being part of the show this evening. Thank you again to all of our other readers and performers, Annie Grizzle, E. Hughes, Jasmine Plaskon. Thank you for being part of the show, for kicking the year off well. Please check out those links that we dropped. Keep looking at their work. Keep supporting them in their work. You can always find us on Instagram, on Twitter, at our website, exhibitb312.com. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, especially next month. We've got another show in Chicago at the end of February. In the middle of February, we're going to be at AWP in Kansas City, doing a couple days of programming there. So if you're in Kansas City for the fest, let us know. Thank you again to the Guild, as always, for helping us put these shows on. Like I said, lots of different places to get your literary fix over the next year. And we'll be here, so keep an eye on us, and we'll see you then. Bye.